Well, hey everyone, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco. They've been making espresso machines by hand since 1927. And in that almost 100 years, they have consistently been creating innovative, dependable espresso machines based on serving the needs of their customers. They listen to their needs and then they get to work creating these amazing world-class espresso machines that are just quintessential to the specialty coffee industry. And one of the examples of this amazing innovation that they do on a regular basis at La Marzocco is the KB90 espresso machine. Straight-in locking portafilters were introduced in that espresso machine, which makes it really easy on the barista's wrist. The ergonomics are just unbelievable. It has the scales and the drip tray for increased accuracy of extraction. And then the auto flush feature gives you cleanliness and workflow improvements. And the KB90 is just one example of many different kinds of espresso machines that La Marzocco has to fit the needs of your coffee shop. Now, La Marzocco is available to help you select the right equipment for your store. All you need to do is reach out and get them on the phone. One of their salespeople would love to talk with you. info@lamarzocousa.com. And of course, you should check out their website, lamarzocousa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly. They are creating custom-branded mobile apps for your coffee bar so that you can bring together the convenience of mobile ordering with the branding and experience your customers have come to love about your coffee shop. And this is a no-risk model with Espressly. There's no setup or development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner, receipt and label printing capabilities. Data is stored in the app, and you also get the integration with some of the world's best payment processing systems, including Square. So this is something I think you should seriously take a look at if you've even thought about having mobile ordering or an app in your cafe for your customers to use. Go ahead and check them out and sign up today over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about something that has been on my mind ever since the SCA EXPO in Boston, and it was such a great time. We're going to have episodes coming out shortly with interviews that we've done for Rate of Rise Live. There are 10 conversations that we did there that I think are going to be very valuable. Each are about 25 to 30 minutes each. Really, stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. But that time at SCA was just a rich time of seeing old friends, meeting new friends. The entire value chain was represented in the building all day long. It was just the energy in the room was palpable, and it was great, especially post-COVID and all of the relationships kind of coming together in one place. It was great. But what I want to talk about, though, is something that I witnessed at a coffee bar that broke my heart and reminded me that in the midst of all the revelry that we're doing, there is still the reality that we can't escape in terms of hospitality and how sometimes I think we're missing a certain element of self-awareness as an industry. I was at a really fancy coffee bar. And, I'm spending some good money for some good coffee. And you are like me in that you like to spend money on something that you highly value. And so are a bunch of other people. This place is always packed. And it's a high-end coffee shop that is charging a lot for pour-overs and just is palatial. It's very beautiful in downtown Boston. And when I was sitting there, I was working, I was drinking coffee. A gentleman came in, kind of rough looking in terms of his appearance and clothing. And, you don't want to judge, but, you work in coffee long enough, you can say this is somebody who's down and out, the way they carried themselves and everything else. They walked into the doorway, halfway into the coffee bar, not really up to the counter to order, with $3. This man held $3 in his hand, kind of up to his chest a little bit, and was looking at the money and then looked up at the menu and kind of looked around and started to get more uncomfortable shuffled around a little bit, and then walked away. It was a cold morning in Boston, and he obviously just wanted a cup of coffee. I think he felt very uncomfortable being in there. He looked at the prices maybe and saw that they were way too expensive for him to afford. And, he walked out and never got to experience that coffee. And I'm not sure if he ever did get a cup of coffee somewhere, but I really hope he did. But it broke my heart because he was invisible. And it's not some malicious thing that all of us did. It's something that we collectively missed because we were so busy in our own worlds. This giant gathering of the value chain in all of these coffee professionals, it costs a lot of money to go to these events. Only the most privileged or the most funded from other sources can go to these things. And this is something that we collectively missed. And we pride ourselves on serving the needs of the less fortunate or the less privileged, namely the coffee farmers. Now, how much you want to bet that this gentleman in his economic situation is similar to a lot of the people that farm the coffee that we charge a lot of money for? Now, what if he was a coffee farmer walking in from the street to try to get a cup of coffee? Now, we wouldn't have really noticed him, or at least we would have said, oh, he's kind of a vagrant, he's not dressed properly, or, he doesn't have enough money to buy this coffee, and we may have judged him, the way that we do make snap judgments about this stuff. And depending on how your day is going, you might have more harsh judgments towards a person, right? Now, if they introduce themselves as a coffee farmer, all of a sudden our tune would change. We'd be like, oh my, we elevate coffee farm. You're on the bag. Oh, come in, friend. Come on in. We'll give you a free cup of coffee. You grew this coffee. This is amazing that you're here. And so the question that I had is, what makes a person valuable to us? Is it that they are someone who does something for us, or that we've been taught we should elevate, and so we reflexively do so, which I think farmers obviously deserve to be elevated for their work. But they're both human beings. This man did nothing for us in terms of, business. He's not a coffee grower, as far as I know, Just a man walking around trying to get a cup of coffee in a chilly morning. And the thought that keeps floating around in my mind is, how far does our hospitality extend? Are we valuing people as people, or are we valuing them only on what they do and what they do for us, or what they mean to us? So this was kind of a wake-up call, or a grounding moment to say, we're all feeling really good. We're kind of in this self-congratulatory moment, even as we talk about the hard things about the industry, we're still happy and pretty self-satisfied that we're talking about them. And meanwhile, people are, coming into these, what would be considered the best coffee bars, quote unquote, the best, and feeling the worst about it. And so, I'm not saying that every coffee bar needs to be the same, and there's going to be, not every single coffee needs to have a low price point for everyone to be able to afford it. There's all sorts of coffee bars for all sorts of situations, but we can always afford to be hospitable and notice people and make room and create options. And because every barista was busy serving every other person, I wonder if people saw him, and I wonder what we could have done better, what the company could have done better, what I could have done better. And I think the idea is, know that no matter how high up there we get in terms of an industry, we can't be so high up there that we can't serve the lowest of the people, in terms of traditionally understanding what low or high is. Not to get too deep into that, but I'm really just working this out in my head as I'm talking about it with you. And I'm curious what you would have done in that situation. Working in a coffee bar that has a menu that's, for all intents and purposes, pretty inaccessible to the average person. and then having the average person walk in and then walk out. How okay is that? What do we lose by creating more accessible options? In terms of price points, at least. And you know what? In terms of hospitality, not even talking about pricing things. We could just talk in terms of how we are trained to recognize people and make them feel like my friend Philip Turner says in the episode Powerful, Simple Hospitality. Acknowledged, welcomed, and included. It's hard to acknowledge, welcome, and include somebody like that man because we don't have a reference point for how we're supposed to welcome him into this palatial coffee reality that we've created, right? We don't have a reference point for that. It makes us feel uncomfortable because we don't know what to say, and so we say nothing. And we leave it to their minds, his mind, to work out, this is not the coffee bar for you. The good coffee is not for you, friend. You've got $3, take it somewhere else. And he did. I'm not sure what the answer is. We want to have resolution to this. We want to have an answer that says, okay, well, here's the technique. Here are the 3 steps to make that, not a reality in my coffee bar, not in my watch, that kind of thing. But the honest answer, I think, is just to be honest with yourself and get creative with how you can extend hospitality to what would maybe be considered the least, the person who can do the least amount for you. And yeah, they might not be the customer who keeps your coffee shop in business, but I think that is the customer that keeps our integrity intact. And so if we are looking for a ethic to help guide us into the future of specialty coffee, and we talk about the definition of specialty coffee and celebrating lots of different varieties of coffee's expression, I think it's only natural that we also include varieties of expression of hospitality as well. So I hope that this was helpful, maybe thought-provoking. It's something I noted that I thought was worth chatting about. Maybe there's some things that you've done that, allow you to not only stay in business, but also practice hospitality, no matter who it is. I would love to hear from you. You can email me, chris@keystotheshop.com. And as always, I'm really thankful to have you listening to the show. Thanks, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break. From Keys to the Shop.